Sup everyone, welcome back to the beginner breakdown series for King of Fighters 14. In this episode we're going to go over Leona. In this episode also we're going to see the visual update came out last week, which is great. So from here on out every beginner breakdown episode is going to have the new visual update. If you've never seen a beginner breakdown before, this video series is intended more for beginners or players who are just trying to learn the basics of a character. With that in mind, let's get started. First up is FAR normals: light punch, light kick, heavy punch, and heavy kick. FAR light punch is a mid. We block both crouching or standing. It's a little bit plus on block. It has pretty good range and you can super cancel it. FAR light kick also has pretty solid range. I think light punch is a little bit more range, but regardless, FAR light kick is a mid. It is even on block. FAR heavy punch also has a bit of range. She goes forward quite a distance, as you see. It's a mid. We block both crouching or standing. It's a little bit negative on block and you can super cancel it as well. There is considerable startup on it, however, which is both kind of a bad thing and a good thing. Bad because there's a lot of startup, so you can be hit out of it with something that's really quick, but also kind of nice because it gives you enough time to buffer super, kind of like that, and it's pretty easy. Then FAR heavy kick, this right here is a mid. We block both crouching or standing. It can whiff on smaller crouches in the game if you're far away. So for example, you can imagine the hitbox on it tapering off a little bit. So from there that's not going to hit, but a little bit closer and it hits. That's more noticeable with smaller crouching characters. You'll have to be a little bit closer for it to land, but you're probably not going to be using it that close. No reason to. It's a little bit negative on block, and it's an okay anti-air. It's a little slow and has a pretty specific hitbox. Up next we got close normals. There's light punch, light kick, heavy punch, and heavy kick. Close light punch is a mid. You can block both crouching or standing. It's a little bit plus on block, and you can also super and special cancel into whatever you like. Close light kick is a low, so it can only be blocked crouching. It's even on block, and you can super and special cancel into whatever you need. Close heavy punch is a mid. We block both crouching or standing. It's a little bit negative on block, and it's super and special cancelable. And it's 2 hits, which makes it really useful. It gives you time to super cancel. It also gives you enough time, because Leona's a charge character, it gives you enough time to get some charges in. Kind of like that right there. It's pretty precise though. You have to start charging almost immediately after you hit the button, but you don't want to necessarily hit the button in a direction at the same time, because you might get grabbed on accident, so you have to be worried about that. Not only that, but close heavy punch will also stand the opponent, so it increases their hitbox vertically. Close heavy kick is a mid. We block both crouching or standing. It's the most negative close button she has, but it's still pretty safe on block. It's super and special cancelable, so you can cancel it whatever you want. You can cancel it on the first hit or the second hit, does not matter. Because it's 2 hits, it's very similar to close heavy punch, which means it gives you enough time to charge her special moves and maybe get like a moon slasher or whatever it's called. Then from up close, Leona can combo her close light punch and a close light kick. So that's mid and then low. And as I said before, close light kick can be special canceled or super canceled. Next we got crouching buttons. So you're crouching light punch, light kick, heavy punch, and heavy kick. Crouching light punch is a mid, and we block both crouching or standing. It's a little bit plus on block, and you can chain you can chain up to 3 in a row if you're at point blank. And it is special and super cancelable. Here's crouching light kick. It's a low, can only be blocked crouching. It's a bit positive on block. You cannot super or special cancel as far as I know, which means if you chain a couple of these in a row, you'll have to go into crouching light punch if you want to get a super or special off. From point blank, you can also chain it and get 3 in a row, but again, you probably want to go into light punch. Crouching heavy punch is a mid. We block both crouching or standing. It's really negative on block, punishable negative. It doesn't really push back very far either on a block, but it is super and special cancelable. Crouching heavy kick is a low. You can only be blocked crouching, so it's her sweep. It causes a knockdown. It's pretty negative on block. It can be punished if you use it point blank pretty easily. The further out you space it, the harder it is to punish, and it does have really good range. Go over jumping normals next. Here's light punch, light kick, heavy punch, and heavy kick. They're all pretty standard jumping buttons. As long as you time it right, you can get whatever you want off of them, whether you're short hopping or jumping. Light kick is pretty quick, and it can be used as an air-to-air. If you want an all-around jump-in button, heavy kick's not a bad one to use. It's got a good range, easy to convert off of as long as you're close enough. It can cross up as well, and you can short hop with it as well. You don't have to worry about it whiffing. If you want a button that crosses up, Light punch, heavy punch, or heavy kick are all useful. They can all cross up whether the opponent's crouching or standing. Heavy kick might be the easiest one to cross up with. You see right there, that crossed up. Leona has something kind of useful, unique. As you see right there, a lot of her jumping normals can be special cancelled. And even super cancelled as well. The jumping normals that can be special cancelled is our jumping light punch, jumping heavy punch, and jumping heavy kick. Here's another jumping normal that I forgot about, that I forgot to mention. It's neutral jump, heavy kick. This right there. And that also can be super and special cancelled. You can't hop, you cannot neutral short hop with it, however. In particular, her jumping light punch and neutral jump heavy kick are both very useful to kind of do instant overheads, or just overheads into like supers on opponents. So if the opponent is, you know, crouch blocking a lot, you could do something like, oh, not that, kind of like that, and that all comboed. Same thing with neutral jump heavy kick. You could also do something like, you don't have to go into super, you could do, you can also do that with neutral jump heavy kick. And here's a quick tip for beginners if you want to practice kind of like a instant overhead into like super like that. I start from down to down forward to forward, up forward. And then when I hit up forward, I pretty much hit light punch. And then I go back to neutral, and then of course I'll go back and then punch. Then her jumping blowback attack, which you can execute by hitting heavy punch and heavy kick while in the air. This right here, it's pretty good. It's plus on block like a lot of these jumping blowback attacks are. It does have considerable startup compared to other ones, so if you're going to use it, you do want to hit it pretty early. Otherwise, if you space it wrong or hit it too late, it'll just cancel. Like that, for example. You just won't get the attack out. Next up, we got command normals. She has one, and it's forward and light kick. This move right here. So if you do this raw, it has considerable startup. It does go pretty far. It is negative on block. It does become a little bit harder to punish if you do it really far, but it is punishable with quick buttons. As you see, it causes a hard knockdown, so you don't really get anything off of it if you just do it raw. However, it's very useful as a combo tool, and you can really combo into it from a lot of her buttons, whether they're low hit stun buttons or high hit stun buttons. So like from close heavy punch, you can combo into it pretty easily. Close heavy kick. That was close light punch, close light kick into the command move, even from crouching normals. Like that all comboed. And if you combo into it, that special move, that command normal, she's airborne during it. So you're able to use like this special move right there, which is corsical back, heavy punch in the air. And of course you can do like the other ones as well. And also you can super cancel it as well. And then her blowback attack, which you can execute by hitting heavy punch and heavy kick while on the ground. This right here, it's pretty good in terms of range. It has considerable startup like a lot of these, but it does go really far forward. It's very negative, so if you're going to be using this, you want to make sure you try to land it at the tip. That way it pushes back far enough where the opponent doesn't have a lot of good options to punish it. And you could special and super cancel it to try to make it safe. One thing you can do at low level is if you happen to land it, you could wait, and then once you see that it's landed, you could do that rush super from full screen and it'll all combo. Next up we got throws. Forward throw. Not a hard knockdown, and it sends them pretty far back. Back throw. Not a hard knockdown either, and it sends them pretty much full screen as well. Let's go over special moves next. The next one she has is a charge move. You charge it back and then forward, then you hit punch. And if for some reason you're familiar with charge characters, you don't have to walk backwards while you're charging to do that. That's the special move I was talking about. You can just hold down back. That's giving you both a down charge and a back charge. So all you need to do next is just hit forward and then punch. And then you get the special move. Here's a light punch version of it. It has a considerable startup, as you see. It's probably the slowest one, but it is positive on block. So if you do get the opponent to block it, you are positive, which is very useful. It does the least amount of damage as well. This heavy punch version of it, it also has considerable startup. It's a tiny bit quicker than the light punch version of it, and it travels forward just a little bit. And it is also plus on block. It's a little bit more plus on block than the light punch version of it, and it does a little bit more damage. The X version of it is pretty quick. It's almost as quick as the heavy punch version of it. It looks like it also travels just a little bit further than the heavy punch version. It's the most plus on block and it does the most damage. You're really not going to be comboing into these too much because they have considerable startup, so you really can't combo into them. At low level, what you could try doing is you can use them as part of block strings, and if you know the opponent is going to block, you could kind of throw it out there like that. And if they hit like a really dumb button or they jump or something, they could get hit by the projectile, and if they block, then you have all these plus frames where you can, you know, continue hitting buttons or continue your pressure. One thing you want to take care of is that you want to be careful because the light punch version of it won't whiff on crouchers, which is great. And then the quicker ones and the ones that have a little bit more range on them, like heavy punch, do whiff on crouchers. And then the EX1 also whiffs on crouchers, except for like really big bodied characters like Chang, or I think even Daimon, for example, I think is a big bodied character. You could use it as something like that to try to trip up runners if you're like walking backwards and like they're getting a little too overzealous. If you see that, you could throw it out there since you're already walking backwards. But again, be wary, heavy punch and EX tend to whiff. So if they run forward and crouch, it might just whiff on them. And because they can whiff on crouchers and the considerable startup, you know, your Leona is weak in the legs during this animation. And you can also super cancel them right when it lands. And if you happen to land this in the corner, you could connect a V slasher super as well. You have to tiger knee it though. And I'm using the light punch version of that V slasher. You have to be pretty close to. I think if you're even just a little bit too far to the away from the edge of the screen, it won't connect and the opponent will just land and you wasted your bar. There's not a lot you can get from these mid-screen. That was the light punch version of it. The heavy punch version of it, you can get like blowback attack. It is possible to hit them after the like heavy punch version of it. It just has to be something quick. It's really just one hit. You get a little bit more if you have the opponent in the corner, like I kind of showed you with like the supers and stuff. Because the EX1 is so plus, if you get it mid-screen, you can really hit them with one big thing in the middle of the screen. You hit him with pretty easily. Hit him with super. There you have a ton of time. Or blowback attack if you want to keep it simple. You know, whatever you want. And there, just to reiterate the point, it's easier to get stuff in the corner if you hit them with that projectile. That was with the light punch version of it, which is a lot harder to get stuff from mid-screen. All these projectiles are mids. They can be blocked both crouching or standing, so there's nothing tricky about them, except for the whiffing, like I mentioned before. The last thing you could use this for, if you wanted to, it's pretty specific. You might not be able to get it. You could do something like that and have them fall into it. It has to be pretty spaced correctly, and it may not be worth the risk. There's other anti-air options you could try instead. Next special move she has is a down charge, and then from down charge all the way to up, plus a punch button. So this is the light punch version of it. Kind of quick. I think they all have pretty much the same exact startup. Here's the heavy punch version of it. The heavy punch version and the light punch version of it do exactly the same amount of damage, and they're both very negative on block. Very easy to punish, especially if you're close up. And it does not push back very far. So beware if you're just throwing these out raw, you're right next to them. Then here's EX as well. And it does the most damage. It does twice the amount of damage of the other two. So you could use these as anti-airs if you wanted to. You just have to kind of preemptively throw them out because they do have some startup. And as you see right there, the hitbox isn't exactly like where that blue circle is. It's more like where her hand is as she makes like the circular motion. And again, you have to be kind of preemptive about if you're using it as an anti-air. Otherwise, you could get hit with a good button press if you're too late with it. Because, like I said, they do have startup. They're not instant. And the only ones that have invincibility on them at all at startup is the heavy punch version of it. So you want to use that to anti-air. Or you can use the EX1. The EX1 has also invincibility. We're going to be comboing into these. They're actually pretty easy combo tools as long as you have your charge held. That's really the only tricky part. Which kind of sucks if you're not used to playing a charge character. You just have to always remember to be holding like down back while you're doing other things. That's probably the easiest way to start with it. The easiest example is like you're crouching right next to them, going, you know, you run in, you hit down back, and you're gonna go in for, you know, like a low attack like that. So you're holding down back already at this point. So you do like, for example, like that, and that was just two crouching light kicks into a crouching light punch, and then I special canceled that. with Moon Slasher. Because of that, you can pretty easily get off of attacks with low hit stun on them, like her close buttons or her light buttons in general. And then speaking of which, right there, like her close heavy punch and heavy kick buttons give you enough time to charge. And then you can also super cancel them as well. That's going to be probably the trickiest thing to learn. You have to like take advantage of shortcut commands to really be able to do that easily. And then for me, I'm on player 1 side. What I did was I went from holding down forward to down, down, back, back, and then up, back. And as soon as I hit up, back, I did punch. That way I got the Moon Slasher. Very quickly after that, after I hit punch from up, back, I let the stick and return to neutral, then down, down, forward, forward. Like that. It's very quick. Like it's just all one motion. That's going to require some practice. And there's nothing tricky about the Moon Slashers. They're all mid, so they can be blocked both crouching or standing. And you don't really get anything extra off of these Moon Slashers. It kind of sends the opponent far away. You can't really... You have a lot of recovery on them. And same thing with the X1. They're pretty much like combo enders, unless you super cancel it to get additional damage. Next special move, she has this Corso back plus kick. This right here, it's her earrings. So that's the light kick version of it. It goes, it goes full screen, but it does bounce on the floor first. You also see it has a lot of startup on it. You can be easily hit out of it. The light kick version of it is a little bit plus on block, so if you get the opponent to block it, you have enough time to run in and not all the way to them, but you have enough time to run in a little bit on them. And if you're a little bit closer and you get them to block it like right there, you do have enough time to run in on them. And the heavy kick version of it also has a lot of startup. It has a little bit longer startup, and it goes directly to them from full screen, so it does not bounce on the ground first. It also does the same amount of damage as the light kick version of it. And then heavy kick is also a little bit plus on block. And the EX one is the quickest one, as you see right there. It travels pretty slowly, has that same arc. It bounces on the ground a little bit before full screen, and then it reaches full screen. And it's even on block, so you don't get a lot of advantage from it. But you're able to follow it from full screen pretty easily. And it does a little bit more damage than the other ones. These can whiff over the opponent's head. So that's the light kick version of it. Because the light kick version of it, like I showed you from full screen, hits the ground kind of early, you're able to use that from a little bit closer and have have it hit the opponent. If you're using the heavy kick version of it, it goes a lot further. So it goes right over their head. You have to be a little bit further for it to hit the opponent. You're using the heavy kick version more often than not from like full screen, and the light kick version if you're a little bit closer. And then the EX one has a lot of the same issues as the heavy kick one because it goes up really high, so you have to be a couple character spaces away for it to be kind of an issue for the opponent. And they are considered projectiles, so they will collide with other projectiles in the game, like Athena's Psycho Balls. They'll cancel each other out. If you throw the EX one, it'll beat regular projectiles and go right through it, and it'll remain on screen. You can't compete in projectile wars too long because of the startup, which is fine because you have another really good tool in the form of a super that can get around fireballs. I'll go over that later in the super section. And there's nothing tricky about them. They're all mids and you block both crouching or standing, even the light kick version of it, which looks like it could hit the opponent low. Next special move she has is a charge back and then forward plus kick. Again, I'm just going to use down back. This move right here, so that's the light kick version of it. She goes running kind of far, and if you don't reach the opponent in time, she'll just skid to a halt. So the light kick version of it has a bit of startup to it, but it is quicker than the heavy kick version of it. It is a bit negative on block, so it can be punished if you throw it kind of point blank. It does become a little bit harder to punish if you land it at a distance, like at the tip or so. Heavy kick version of it is a little bit slower on startup, but it does go full screen, so she'll eventually reach them and hit the opponent. It does the same amount of damage as the light kick version of it, but it does have a follow-up to it. As soon as it lands, if you hit forward and hard kick, she'll do that attack. And if you do that follow-up attack and it gets blocked, it is super negative. And here's the X1. She does not go full screen, but it is the quickest one. And it does the most damage, and it's a little bit plus on block. These moves are a little bit tricky to combo into because they have considerable startup on them. You can combo into the light kick version of this move from some things like a crouching heavy punch. That'll combo. But as soon as you start doing anything that pushes her back a little bit, like her close heavy punch or heavy kick button, Like that, for example, right there, that did not combo. The X1 is the quickest, so you can combo into it from some things like your close heavy kick or heavy punch buttons. Like that all combo, for example, right there. If you happen to land the EX version of it, or the heavy kick version of it, you do have enough time to hit them afterwards. Like from mid-screen you can land a sweep. You just have to kind of like link it and time it right. Same goes for the EX one. So you see right there, you can hit them in the corner as well with one big hit. Like I use crouching heavy punch, and that's only off of the heavy kick version or the EX version. You could try to be a little cute like that at low level and try to catch like people who are just like blindly running in on you. Because she has to run a little bit before she attacks, it gives you a decent amount of time to buffer run super. The X version does give you some follow-ups mid-screen if you happen to land it or combo into it. Not only could you get like sweep, you can also get far, heavy punch. You can get like EX Moon Slasher. You can even land EX Moon Slasher off of the heavy kick version of it. And there's nothing tricky about these attacks. They're all mid, so they can be blocked both crouching and standing. Next special move Leona has is cortical back plus punch while in the air. Here's the light punch version of it right there. That is a projectile. It's considerable. It has a little bit of startup on it, and it's pretty negative on block as well. And you're kind of vulnerable until you land. And you do have some landing recovery. See right there, it was holding back the whole time, and it took her a little bit to walk backwards. And here's the heavy punch version of it right there. It's no longer a projectile, instead she kind of charges downwards. That has a little bit more startup on it. It is less negative, but still punishable negative. And it does the same amount of damage as the light punch version of it. The X1 has a lot of startup on it, but it's also multiple hits. It's a projectile again. It's also plus on block. So if you get them to block it, you do have a little bit of time to try to continue some pressure. And it also does the most damage. The light punch version of this attack you can combo into from her jumping attacks actually. So like her jumping normals that I went over before, you can special cancel them and combo into this. Which means some things like instant overhead, like light punch or neutral heavy kick, you can combo off of from that if the opponent's crouching. You can also tiger knee this as well to get it really low to the ground. So if the opponent's kind of haphazardly rushing in, you can kind of catch them really quick. This is also something you can get off of her command normal. The heavy punch version of it is harder to combo into from her jumping attacks. I don't really think you can because it has a lot of startup on it. But you can super cancel it into this V slasher. And you can also combo into the heavy punch version of it from her command normal as well. And the X1 you really can't combo into. There's almost always going to be a gap if you try to go into it. You're just kind of trying to use the plus frames to get in on somebody. If you do happen to land it though, it's possible to get some follow-ups. You just have to be really quick. Kind of like that, for example. Like that's quick enough to reach full screen. And you can also kind of do it from jumping normals as well. And there's nothing tricky about these moves. They can all be blocked crouching or standing. Next, let's go over supers. First one she has is cortical forward, half circle back while in the air. It's her V slasher, so the light punch version of it has a pretty shallow angle, kind of like that. Heavy punch version, she goes a lot further. So both of these have a little bit of invincibility on them on startup, which makes it useful. Her projectiles in general, like this, or her earring bomb, you can't really get into projectile battles with them for too long, otherwise you're gonna get eaten alive by real projectile characters because these have a lot of startup on them. If the person's trying to play like fireball wars with you, you can kind of get them used to throwing some of these out, maybe battling, and then you want to be a little bit brave and jump forward, or maybe even neutral jump, and then start buffering that input for the super while you're in the air. And if you see them throw another projectile, boom, right there, you go all the way down, you hit them during the recovery of their projectile. Here's the EX version of V Slasher. Next super move is cortical back, half circle forward plus kick. This special move right here. That's the regular version of it, and here's the EX version. If you want to cancel a super into another super, the only real options you have is going from her V Slasher into the rush super, or the kick super. And you're pretty much canceling as soon as you land the V Slasher. If you want to cancel in a Climax super, you can go either way, they both work. Going from the kick super is a little bit trickier, just because you're going to have to change your inputs. So that's what it looks like. I cancel on the 6th hit. I'm not sure if you can cancel on the 7th hit, but so I cancel on the 6th hit into Climax super. When you're canceling on the 6th hit, you're going to input the Climax super inputs from the opposite side. So if you start from player 1 side, input the Climax super as if you're on player 2 side. Comboing from V slasher is a lot easier. You have a lot of time to buffer it. You just have to cancel like as soon as the V slasher lands. Let me give you some quick combos to get started with. From up close, like heavy punch is not a bad one to start off with. Maybe practice getting some charges in. Like that right there, and it's 2 hits. Gives you just enough time to get a V slasher in, or moon slasher rather. What I think is a little bit easier, which you could also learn how to do, is from those same 2 heavy buttons, you can go into her command normal, and then special cancel that. From crouching, go from a couple crouching light kicks into light punch into moon slasher. Like that's pretty simple. You can also do stuff like that as well. Just be careful you don't accidentally get a charge. So like if you're holding down back and you do that, when you go to forward light kick, you might get that charge attack, which you don't want. Hold just straight up down and only down, or down forward, so you don't accidentally get the charge attack. And of course, review the special move section, the super section. That way you know how to convert some of these special attacks into bigger damage, or you know what else you can get off of them afterwards. Alright everyone, thanks for watching. That's the Leona beginner breakdown complete. Quick time to shell. If you found this episode useful or other episodes useful, feel free to hit that subscribe button. Really nice seeing more subscribers. No, never required. And with that, let's go to member select. Again, like the past few episodes, I'll probably float around a little bit and see where I land next for the next episode. Regardless, thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you next episode.